Good morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're in Riley County. We're on the agronomy farm, and we're going to be talking to Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti about corn plant populations, basically corn planting and what to be looking for this coming season. So we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors. See you in a minute.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're on the agronomy farm, and we're also talking with Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti. He is our extension crop specialist. And Ignacio, thanks for being on the show. And it is getting corn planting time. And I know tractors are going, and I know some people are just driving their plant around the section line, just get all their neighbors excited. But tell us some of the things that producers should be thinking about this time of year.
So, one of the main points when you are looking about planting time in corn is the soil temperature.
That's a big one.
And for me, at this point of the year, is one of the biggest ones. If you think about emergence and if you think about uniformity. So when you're looking about what is the optimal temperature for corn emergence, we're looking about 55 degrees. I'm always feeling comfortable even if we go to 58 or 60.
Now, what depth are you talking about? 2 inch or 4 inch?
Usually 2 inch.
Okay.
So we are talking about 2 inch. So we are talking in a position where we are placing the seeds. Okay.
Right.
So if we are looking at about 1.5 inch seed placement. So when we are looking at 55, we can get a nice emergence. And usually when you're looking at temperatures, around this time of the year, we can get an emergence maybe in 2 weeks or less, okay? What happens if we are planting today or these weeks, when we're on temperatures that they are probably in 40s on the northeast corner. So most of the times we see that can delay emergence. And we are looking about 3 and sometimes even more time that this seed is just sitting in the soil. Is susceptible to disease, insects, any kind of a problem that you may have at that specific moment, the seed will be impacted, okay?
Right.
And then we're trying to educate farmers and agronomists to understand this position because plants are not coming at the same time. We have some plants based on the variability that we can have in the soil and the position in the landscape. Some plants will come 2 weeks after, and there might be some plants that will come 3 or maybe 4 weeks after. So the question for the farmer is that impacting yields? And I say yes, because anytime, and we have studies and people, researchers across the state, and even in the US, taking a look to how basically emergence and when the plants are coming out is affecting basically, your stand uniformity.
Right.
And problems in stand uniformity are impacting your maximum yields.
Right.
So anytime that we have plants that are not coming at the same time, and let's say that are coming a week or 2 weeks after, that is almost the same to say that you are losing those plants.
Right, or you're planting 2 weeks later than optimal planting time.
Yes, and we are looking at those fields, and most of the times when you go about to flowering time, if you are coming too late, those are the plants that you will find that maybe they don't have ears, or the ear sizes are too small.
Right.
So there were plants that they were a little bit left behind, and when they are competing with the other plants that were coming 2 weeks after emergence, they are really in a bad position for the competition.
They're not competitive with the plants that are 2 or 3 leaves bigger. So it's a critical issue on corn, and I want to emphasize this point, is when the plants are coming out and make sure that we have uniformly emergence is one of the main issues on corn. The lower the temperature, we have an even emergence, and then as I mentioned before, it's not only just an even emergence, it's also the likelihood to lose those stands. Right.
Because anytime in corn that we are losing one plant, we are losing yields.
Right. We have to take a break. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, your host, and with us we have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti, our crop specialist, and we were talking about soil temperatures a second ago, Ignacio. Let's talk about seeding rates, because you've got the gamut of seeding rates across the state: irrigated, dryland, east, west, you name it. So jump in.
Well, when you're looking at seeding rates, it's amazing to see, the variability that we have across the state. So,
right.
And most of the times we need to understand that the seeding rates are really highly connected to the water deficit.
Right.
So the probability and the rainfall, is really connected to what is your potential seeding rates.
Right.
So you can make a connection. I'm saying if I'm working in northeast Kansas, in that area we are trying to target 200 and 250 bushels under-irrigated,
right,
or even in dryland conditions. So in those conditions we are trying to push seeding rates.
Right,
okay?
Of course.
And the seeding rate sometimes in those environments, it might be probably 30,000, 32,000, okay?
Right.
One main difference that I want to make at a brief point: seeding rate is not the same to say final plant population.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
So seeding rates is only just referring to how many seeds per acre.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Final plant population and stand counts is basically what is the final plants that we have in the field.
What survived? What produced?
Survived? What produced? And basically is what is coming out immediately after emergence, and also is what are the number of plants that they were remaining in the field until harvest.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So on the final plant numbers, we are looking at least to have 30,000 when we are trying to shoot for more than 200 bushels, okay?
Right.
So on the seeding rates, usually we try to add 10% more.
Exactly.
It's kind of a general rule of saying, I'm always assuming that I will have maybe some plants that will not make it.
Right, right.
So if you go to all locations, so let's move to central Kansas.
Okay.
So that environment tends to present more variability. So we don't know when will be raining. We don't know.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, they know all about that lack of rain. Right.
We know about that. So in those scenarios, we were working the last years, and we are always seeing that the seeding rate can go from 18,000 to 24,000.
Yeah, pretty easily. Right.
And it can go, if you are in a dry year, you can probably, your optimum is 18. If you are in a wet year, your optimum is maybe 24, 26.
Exactly.
Okay? So on the western side of the state, if you go to scenarios that we are producing dryland corn, and we are talking about 100 bushel or even below 100 bushel corn, in those scenarios, the seeding rate really drops. And then we are talking about probably 16,000, 17,000 seeds per acre. So that will give us, around 14,000 plants per acre.
Right.
So, one of the main messages is to make sure that we are connecting our maximum yield potential with the seeding rates. When we are getting close to, below 100 bushels, we may need only 10,000 plants.
Right.
So how do we get there? With maybe 12,000 seeds per acre.
Exactly.
When you are going to a scenario that there are more than 250 bushels, we need at least 30,000 plants. So how do you get there? It's maybe with 32,000 seeds per acre.
Right.
So the main message is to make sure that we connect seeding rates with maximum yield potential and the target for that environment.
So how badly are you penalized if you go for you're in a yield where it's 100, 125, but you think you're going to be lucky this year and go for 150 bushel? How badly are you penalized by upping the population by 2,000 to 4,000?
If you say 4,000, I will see that I will not see so much issues on there. When you are looking at maybe more, I will say 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 is a moment that you will start to see that those yields tend to decline.
Right.
When you
have more barren plants.
Exactly. You will start to push, and the population tend to be a stress factor.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We got to take a break. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers, farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
I think it really extends your home out to the outdoors, and Mark always had kind of a vision of what he wanted to do with the yard, and so he envisioned this kind of outdoor area, the waterfall and things, but when Blueville came in, they had some really good ideas of how to place it and how to do different things that really enhanced the project. So.
Yeah, over the years we've grown to really enjoy our outdoor living space and developed a great working relationship with Blueville.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, and Ignacio Ciampitti didn't run off during that last break, and I hope you didn't either. So, let's talk about some of the work on farm and research that you're doing. I know you've been doing quite a bit of that the last couple, 3 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to push and move forward. I mean, we have collaborations within them in our area agronomists and people in K-State with the goal of trying to work closer together with farmers.
Right.
One of the things that we are learning in the last 3 years is like, if I need to talk about each individual year, you will see that my message will change. Right? I would say 2013 we were saying that we were in a normal year in the sense that we were not really too wet or not really too dry on central Kansas, and you see that most of the times the seeding rates were around 22 and 24.
Right.
On 2014 we were a little bit on the dry side.
Exactly.
So you see that most of our seeding rates were below 22, 18. Mm-hmm. What happened in 2015 was a little bit the opposite. We were on the wet side. Mm-hmm. So if you remember May, June last year,
right.
So most of the guys that were pushing a little bit more on 23, 24 were the guys that they were, as you mentioned before, pushing 1 or 2,000 or 3,000 seeds per acre more. They were getting that benefit. And sometimes that benefit is not small. Sometimes it was at 10 bushel more.
Now, on these sites that you have around the state, do they have weather stations there too, so you know the rainfall and the soil temperatures?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. In all these stations we have, records of the weather information about rainfall, solar radiation, temperature. So we can go back to farmers and precisely know when we have a heat stress, when we have some of the rainfall conditions, because when you look at the probability of the rainfall, that's one of the main factors affecting the response to seed rain.
Right. So basically you can do a little modeling. You can say, okay, how lucky do you feel, like Dirty Harry? How lucky do you feel next year? Are you going to be this level of rainfall and temperature? And then you could kind of shoot for your stand population.
You are too smart. You go chest right.
Say that again.
You are too smart.
Oh, thank you. You heard that at home, right?
Okay. You just go to the right point. What we are working right now on building is models that they will have probability.
Right.
So the farmer will decide when to plant in those environments based on that probability.
Okay. Good
so
deal.
How do you feel today? About 50% or 40%? Right. What chances do you want to take?
Right. Hang on here. Folks, we got to take a break, so stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Support Kansas agriculture education with an AgriTag. AgriTags are available anytime at your county treasurer. They look great on cars and trucks. For more information, go online to ksagclassroom.org.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer, and with us we have Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti. And Ignacio, you know, a few years back, the big headlines in the ag press that drought-tolerant hybrids are the way to go. I mean, those are going to be really important. They use less water than the standard or conventional hybrids. I know you and others have been doing a lot of research on that. So kind of tell us what's the latest.
Yeah, let me give you a summary. So we were working on this almost since the last 5 years. We have studies conducting across the state in different research locations. I mean, we went western Kansas, different irrigation levels. We did similar studies in north central, east central, south central. So we have a pretty nice picture about environments. And we always trying to test these two different kind of technology hybrids, what we call the conventional versus the drought tolerant.
Right.
And we always trying to test it also in different densities. Okay?
Plant population.
Plant population. So what was the idea of using different population was to introduce another stress factor.
Exactly.
You know that if you go too high,
that puts a stress on them.
Put a stress on the plants. If you go too low, you release a stress. So let me tell you this. I mean, if you look at the summary of information, I think that we can divide this into kind of two situations. And everything is based on what is your yield level. So if you are going to a high yield level, so and when I'm saying high, I'm talking about more than 150 bushels.
Right.
In those environments, and more precisely when you go to 200 bushels, clearly the conventional and the drought tolerant don't see so much separation. So which means that the drought tolerant is not yielding less, so it's not dropping, but it's still yielding the same.
Right.
So when you look at the price, you might probably take your decision about what you want to go there.
Right, okay.
So what happened on situations that you have below 160 bushels or 150? So in those environments, we tend to see that the probability to have high yields on the drought tolerant tend to be higher. Okay. So we have more positive comparisons. We have situations that we put together the same maturity group, planting at the same time, at the same density, and we are seeing that we get always 10, 5, 15, 20. There is a lot of variability.
Sure.
So you don't know what to expect on that. Basically, you may get 5, you may get 10 bushels more.
Or you may get even.
Or you may get even. So, but the probability is telling us that in those environments, when you are below 150 bushels, the drought-tolerant technology tends to work, and it tends to produce small benefits that they can really reflect. Some of the, kind of an extra cost, if there is an extra cost associated to the seed.
Okay, so you're saying then that pays for that extra cost of the seed?
Yes, in most of the situations, when you are going to below 150 bushels, based on average numbers, it will pay for the cost of the seed.
Okay. But again, let's go to the higher yield environments, 175, 150, above.
Let's say 200 bushels.
Okay. You're saying that the drought tolerant didn't yield that much lower than the conventional?
No, of course. That was one of the things that we were quite surprised.
Right.
We were expecting, when people working in improving crops and improving corn, we are expecting that they are well suited to dryland and well suited to low yields.
Right.
And then when you put in a high yielding environment, it should drop.
Right.
In this situation, we are seeing that those hybrids, they tend to still be competitive.
Okay.
So they don't really drop much.
That's important.
I think that is an important fact to make sure that we know about these new hybrids. Is they produce really well under really stress situations. And under really good conditions, they still can produce equally or similarly to a conventional hybrid.
We have to take a break. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Heinen Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. Heinen Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program. 800-760-4964. HeinenBrothersAg.com.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotating cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. A high-energy, drought-tolerant crop, sorghum only requires 6 inches of water to produce the first bushel. And with its wide uses and easy adaptation, sorghum proves to be a truly indispensable crop. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Shroyer. Dr. Ignacio Ciampitti is with us, and I want to talk a little bit about those limited wells. We talked a little bit about irrigation and dry land across the state, but those limited wells, they're a little bit different critter because you got some good water and not enough. So let's talk a bit about how you handle those in populations.
Well, most of the times, I mean, one of the things that we understand from that point is that we have several farmers working on what we call the limited irrigation strategy.
Right.
And how do you go in those situations? I mean, farmers usually try to be strategic about the use of water.
Sure.
We have some guys that they try to do some pre-planting irrigation just to make sure that we start with a really good profile. And then from there, they're trying to hold irrigation until they get, I mean, to a maximum peak of water use. And most of the times in corn, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before flowering is when we are starting the point that irrigation, I mean, and water use on the crop, I mean, is really going up.
Exponentially, yeah.
Exponentially. And you know, I mean, what is our most critical factor in corn in terms of, I mean, tolerance to stress? I mean, we know that
that 10 days, 2 weeks prior to tasseling, soaking, and the 2 weeks after are most important.
Exactly. And then if we know that if we don't have water and then if the crop is, I mean, failing, even if it's 1 day only, we know that that crop will be losing yield immediately. So when you're looking at how the farmers need to adjust the population, I mean, again, we need to go back to this idea. If you are working on the full irrigation, so if you have access to almost unlimited water supply, I would say then you are pushing your population.
Right, up in 30s, even pushing 36,
32, 36, 34, 30, yeah, you can go to 38, and still you will see that most of the situations you will see a positive response.
Right.
But we need to understand that why we are not pushing more in population, okay? Why we are not going to 40 or maybe 45. I mean, some situations we are not doing that because we are not compensating. What you are gaining in the combination of plants, I mean, you are losing too much by individual plant.
Right.
On the yields, right?
Right.
And that's one of the issues that we need to make sure that the farmers know. There is an optimal, and after that point, we are declining.
Diminishing returns, right?
Diminishing return, exactly. What happened on the limited irrigation side? I mean, those limited irrigation, I mean, we are just probably providing 2 or 3 irrigations during the season.
Right.
We are limiting the water supply, and we are just constraining to small times.
Right.
In those situations, we know that our maximum yield, it will probably not get to 300 bushels.
No.
We know that if we get 200, that would be a very good number, right?
Close to a miracle in itself, right?
Right? So in those situations, we know that we are adjusting population, and most of the times we are trying to go to 30,000 or even going below, okay?
Sure.
So 28, 30,000 tends to be an optimal number. So on the full irrigation, I will say that we are not seeing so much separation between Western Kansas and Northeast.
Right.
Because at the end, our maximum yield potential in those full irrigation environment in Western Kansas, or really nice precipitation environments and
in
good
Northeast,
soils
right.
in Northeast, tend to be very similar.
Right. Ignacio, it's always good talking to you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it a bunch. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks.
Folks at home, thank you for being with us as well. And don't forget, next Friday, about this same time, we're going to have another issue of That's My Farm. See you then.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamинkansas.com.